Hi there, my name's Nastasia and I work for the environmental charity Redress here in Hong Kong. Our main mission is to prevent fabric waste, and we want to keep unwanted clothes in use for longer and out of our landfills. Normally we come into schools to give a little bit of a presentation to talk about the fashion industry and the impact that it has on the environment. We also talk a little bit about how you can make a difference as an individual. But seeing as the schools are out, we thought we'd try and bring the presentation directly to you in your homes. So we put the presentation together for you to watch. There's an opportunity for you to ask some questions at the end. I hope you enjoy listening to it, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks very much. So the first thing I'm going to start with is who's wearing clothes today? Yeah, I'm sure all of you are wearing clothes right now, or at least I hope so. But in a day, we actually wear quite a lot of different clothes. We wear maybe our pajamas, our school uniforms, although not at the moment, sports outfits, maybe special occasion wear to go to a party or a special dinner after school. And that's just in one day. And we wear a lot of clothes throughout our lifetime. But that's not the problem. The problem is the way that we are making and buying our clothes is having a lasting impact on the planet. And that's what we want to try and address today. Have you ever thought about how many clothes are made every single year? That's right, it's 100 billion garments. That's a lot of clothes to be making on a yearly basis. And if we think about the world's population, which is currently around about 7.7 billion, that means we're getting around 12 items of new clothes each on average every year. That's a lot of clothes to be getting on a yearly basis from brand new. And that figure is actually set to double by 2030. So has anyone ever thought about how those 100 billion items of clothing are made? Even though we are wearing clothes all the time, we often don't think about what they are made of, who made them, and where they come from. Now we're going to watch a short video to see how a t-shirt is made.
Consider the classic white t-shirt. Annually, we sell and buy 2 billion t-shirts globally, making it one of the most common garments in the world. But how and where is the average t-shirt made, and what's its environmental impact? Clothing items can vary a lot, but a typical t-shirt begins its life on a farm in America, China, or India, where cotton seeds are sown, irrigated, and grown for the fluffy bolls they produce. Self-driving machines carefully harvest these puffs. An industrial cotton gin mechanically separates the fluffy bolls from the seeds, and the cotton lint is pressed into 225 kilogram bales. The cotton plants require a huge quantity of water and pesticides. 2,700 liters of water are needed to produce the average t-shirt, enough to fill more than 30 bathtubs. Meanwhile, cotton uses more insecticides and pesticides than any other crop in the world. These pollutants can be carcinogenic, harm the health of field workers, and damage surrounding ecosystems. Some t-shirts are made of organic cotton, grown without pesticides and insecticides, but organic cotton makes up less than 1% of the 22.7 million metric tons of cotton produced worldwide. Once the cotton bales leave the farm, textile mills ship them to a spinning facility, usually in China or India, where high-tech machines blend, card, comb, pull, stretch, and finally twist the cotton into snowy ropes of yarn called slivers. Then yarns are sent to the mill, where huge circular knitting machines weave them into sheets of rough grayish fabric, treated with heat and chemicals until they turn soft and white. Here, the fabric is dipped into commercial bleaches and azo dyes, which make up the vivid coloring in about 70% of textiles. Unfortunately, some of these contain cancer-causing cadmium, lead, chromium, and mercury. Other harmful compounds and chemicals can cause widespread contamination when released as toxic wastewater in rivers and oceans. Technologies are now so advanced in some countries that the entire process of growing and producing fabric barely touches a human hand, but only up until this point. After the finished cloth travels to factories, often in Bangladesh, China, India, or Turkey, human labor is still required to stitch them up into T-shirts. Intricate work that machines just can't do. This process has its own problems. Bangladesh, for example, which has surpassed China as the world's biggest exporter of cotton T-shirts, employs 4.5 million people in the T-shirt industry, but they typically face poor conditions and low wages. After manufacture, all those T-shirts travel by ship, train, and truck to be sold in high-income countries, a process that gives cotton an enormous carbon footprint.
We have just learned that our clothes are made by many different people, from farmers to fashion designers and factory workers, that it often happens in many different parts of the world, and that in the production process, all of these colourful clothes create a lot of pollution and waste. In fact, fashion is one of the most polluting industries in the world, and it affects everything from our land and water to the air that we breathe. When we think about global warming, we often think about turning lights off and using public transport. But producing, transporting, washing and drying clothing also uses a lot of energy, which causes damaging greenhouse gases to be emitted into the atmosphere. Fashion is responsible for around 10% of the world's greenhouse gases. The fashion industry uses a quarter of all the chemicals in the world. Those chemicals are things like pesticides, which are used when we grow cotton to make sure that insects don't eat the crops, as well as dyes and bleaches, which change the colour of our clothes, water repellents to make things waterproof, and all sorts of other chemicals. All these chemicals can be harmful and toxic to the people who make our clothes and to the surrounding environment. For example, when they end up in waterways. Fashion is the second biggest polluter of clean water around the world after farming. Clothing factories often dump dirty and polluted water from dyeing and washing fabrics back into local streams and water sources. This leaves local communities without safe water to drink and bathe in. When you think of fashion, you don't usually think about plastic, but polyester, which is a type of fibre that most of our clothes are made from, is actually a type of plastic. When you put polyester clothes in landfill, they can take up to 200 years to decompose. It's almost the same as trashing single-use plastic, like water bottles. Clothes are also wrapped in plastic bags and plastic wrap to protect them while they are being transported between factories and to the shops where that you buy them. Even if you refuse to take a plastic bag when you go to the shop, you don't see the amount of plastic that is being used behind the scenes. Jeans and lots of the other clothes that we wear are made from cotton, which comes from a plant. To make one pair of jeans uses 10 square meters of land just to grow the cotton. That's about the size of a classroom. Other fabrics like wool also require a lot of land for sheep to graze on. And viscose is made from trees which need land to grow. We actually log over 120 million trees a year just to make our clothes. These mountain of clothes that are piling up in the landfill don't just represent wasted clothes. They represent all the resources we just talked about, including land, water and energy that went into producing them. All of those precious resources are wasted when we throw our clothes in the bin. The cycle of buying more, wearing it less and throwing it away is not sustainable and is creating critical environmental problems like climate change and water pollution. In Hong Kong, we throw away 370 tonnes of textiles every day. Note the word textiles is not unique to clothing and it includes towels, curtains, beddings, carpets, etc. It's hard to imagine, but that's a mountain of clothing weighing around the same as 1.5 Hong Kong's Big Buddha being dumped into Hong Kong's landfills every day, 365 days a year. That is all of the bad news, but the good news is, just like with any other environmental issue, like plastic, there are lots of things that we can do to make a difference. 95% of the textiles thrown away could actually be reused, recycled or repaired. That is why a lot of our programmes at Redress focus on education and keeping our clothes in use for longer. It is really important to us that we try and save all the resources used to make our clothes from being binned. We have 3 core programmes that address this. We run a Sustainable Fashion Design Award for fashion students. The award is a global competition and the winners receive sought-after prizes like mentorships with the industry's biggest names and the opportunity to design a sustainable collection for a brand. Redress has clothing collection boxes in all Gap stores where you can donate your unwanted clothes. Once the clothes have been donated, Redress sorts through them, inspecting every item to decide how to best extend its life and minimise its environmental impact. After we receive the clothes, we sort through them and redistribute them for resale, reuse by people in need, and recycling. Most of the clothes that Redress collects are donated to local charities, where they are given to those in need. Redress works with more than 23 charities in Hong Kong who tell them exactly what kinds of clothes they need. For example, clothes for children, pregnant mums, or homeless people, and even towels and beddings for animals in need. Redress sells some of the clothing at a pop-up charity shop which raises money for Redress and shows people that you can buy really cool clothes second-hand. Redress also partners with other organisations that sell second-hand clothes, like Green Ladies and Recycle. In October, Redress collects unwanted clothes from schools, companies and clubs across Hong Kong as part of their Get Redressed Month clothing drive. Get Redressed Month is an educational campaign that aims to raise awareness of the environmental impact of the fashion industry, drive more sustainable consumption and disposal habits, and promote the benefits of reusing and recycling clothing, whilst directly supporting people in need in our community. The campaign Awareness Month includes a clothing drive, Get Redressed Days, an advertising campaign, and a big clothes sorting session with all the clothes that have been donated. Through our work, we hope that we can give students like yourselves more of an insight into the fashion industry and therefore help you to make more sustainable and informed decisions when buying and disposing of your clothes. We hope that by helping to change attitudes in fashion consumption, that we can directly reduce some of the waste created by the industry. So, what can you as an individual do to make a difference? Caring for your clothes is an important part of extending their life, and poor care, especially bad washing, is one of the key reasons why clothes are thrown away too soon. Read the care label on your clothes so you know how to wash them properly. Tend to stains quickly and mend minor damage like missing buttons, small holes and torn seams. This will help keep your clothes in good condition so that they can be used and reused for longer. The best way we can reduce the environmental impact of our wardrobes is to buy less and to keep the clothes we do have in use for as long as possible. Most of us have lots of clothes in our wardrobe that we don't wear. Why don't you do a stocktake of what is actually in your wardrobe and try to find new ways to restyle or wear your old clothes differently before you look to buy something new? In Hong Kong, 4 in 10 Hong Kongers have thrown away an item of clothing after wearing it just once, which is quite a shocking statistic. When you don't want your clothes anymore, try and find a way to reuse them. A lot of clothes that we don't want anymore are in perfect condition. You might have grown out of them, but they are still perfectly good for someone else to wear. The simplest way to minimise the environmental impact of the clothes you no longer want is to give or sell them to a new owner, always remembering to wash them first. Reusing clothes both delays the disposal and means the person receiving them doesn't have to buy from new, which avoids using new materials and new resources to make new clothes. You can reuse your unwanted clothes by donating them to charities to help people who need them, giving them to a friend or family member, selling them at a second-hand shop, or donating them to Redress. By buying second-hand clothes, you're giving clothes that might have otherwise ended up in landfills a new life, as well as reducing the demand for new clothing, which takes a lot of resources to produce. Choosing to shop second-hand helps to reduce the carbon footprint of the garment by 82%. In Hong Kong, you can buy second-hand through lots of stores, but one specialising in children is the shop called Recycle. You can go to our Redress website and we have a list of places where you can shop sustainably in Hong Kong. One other thing you can do is start asking questions about what your clothes are made of and where they come from. Take the time to write a letter to a brand telling them why environmental sustainability is important to you and asking them what they are doing to improve their business to help the planet. When you write to brands, it sends them a signal that social and environmental issues are important to their customers, and the more people who take the time to contact brands, the more likely it is they will take notice and prioritise these issues. One thing you can do is take part in Fashion Revolution Week, which this year is taking place between the 20th and 26th of April. Fashion Revolution is a campaign that focuses on making the fashion industry more open and transparent about the practices that they use in order to make our clothes. The campaign was devised after a devastating factory collapse in Bangladesh, Rana Plaza. Many garment workers who had been working in terrible conditions were killed at the unsafe factory as it fell to the ground. Lots of clothing was being made here for some of the world's largest brands, and yet they claimed that they were not aware of the poor conditions the garment workers faced. This is why, during Fashion Revolution Week, customers are encouraged to ask brands who made my clothes and encourage them to not only tell us more about the individuals who sew our clothes together, but more information about what our clothes are made from. Look out for activities taking place in your country and online by visiting the Fashion Revolution website. Normally, at the end of our presentations, we ask if you have any questions. Seeing as you can't be with us here directly today, we are inviting you to send us your questions and we will do our best to respond via video or email. You can get in touch with us on the email address circular@redress.com.hk. And lastly, do follow us on social media and look out for our next big campaign in October 2020. We hope you'll join us then.